Hey, gals and guys, it's your host, Phil Larson, and this is your motivational high five on foundations. Let's do this. Welcome to the next 100 episodes, episode 101, and I kid you not, in the last week, your motivational high five has crossed 1 million downloads. That's incredible. 1 million downloads. And that's not even counting streams. I know that the podcast is offered on some streaming platforms, including Spotify, by the way. But downloads, it's really incredible to be able to say that my podcast has been downloaded 1 million times. Not a lot of people get to say that. I feel very fortunate, and thank you for always coming back, subscribing, and getting new downloads or getting updates when there's a new episode. If you want to support the podcast by monetary means, you can do so at patreon.com/YMH5, the number 5, patreon.com/YMH5. If you want to support in another way, just go to iTunes or Apple Podcasts, whatever they're calling it now, and leave me a 5-star rating if you feel honest about that rating. And maybe even a review. I have received some really great reviews over the years, and thank you so much. There's about 415 or so reviews. Thank you. It really does help, believe it or not, the podcast to reach more of an audience, because it does rise up in rankings and people see it better. Or just tell your friends, or the short episodes are designed to be very shareable. If you think someone could really benefit from the current topic being discussed, please invite your friends or your family or whatever into going through your motivational high five together and begin to rewire your brain, as we are all deciding to do every episode at the end of the episode. So without further ado, let's get into it. Your motivational high five on foundations. There is nothing flashy about the word foundations, about an episode title on foundations. I mean, what's more flashy is, success or perseverance or maybe self-confidence. But what makes something a success, or something has perseverance, or you can be confident in something? Well, think about this. What makes a successful home when you build it? What makes it persevere through the storms and the winds? And what makes you as the homeowner confident that the home can withstand all the changing elements? Well, it's its foundation. It's the very thing that we literally and figuratively build on for the rest of what is to come. Foundations are required for building something that is, 1, strong in the moment, think high winds, gusts of winds, and 2, stable over time, think shifting grounds or keeping consistent temperatures through the winter and the summer. We need a foundation to do that. And what about you? Well, let this analogy come back to you. What are the high winds that tend to tip you over? What are the shifting grounds that make you stumble and fall? And talking about consistent temperatures, what boils you over in hot anger and resentment, or hardens you to freezing avoidance and isolation? You see, here's the hard reality about the foundations in your life, the foundations you need to build. You constantly need to be tending to and constructing and reconstructing your foundations every day. And I know that sounds exhausting, but when I think about it in my own life, my best days begin with mindful mornings. My wife would tell you her best nights begin with a quieted spirit, with yoga and peaceful music. These things bring us back to our foundations. We are reminded of what's important in the grand scheme and really what's not. We are brought back to and reminded of ourselves. In regards to a foundation of a house, it's interesting to note that when someone says, wow, that house is beautiful, they often aren't pointing at the foundation. No, they're looking at the exterior, the thing above the foundation that you can see. They aren't pointing to the foundation because the foundation is often hidden within. They're pointing to the exterior, but within that exterior, being hidden within is more important. See, the foundation within demonstrates commitment to what's being held up and where it's being held up. what the foundation is holding it up exterior-wise. Without the foundation, there would be no exterior, or the exterior would not be there for very long. I have a brother-in-law and his wife are building a house. They're building it on top of a hill in some woods, and they're posting pictures online of the build as it's happening. And one of the very first pictures of any sort of house that we can see is the foundation, especially because it's in the woods on a hill. They want to get it right. This first thing, this foundation needs to be right. And it needs to be right for a few reasons. I mean, yes, to hold the rest of the house up, but my brother and sister-in-law, they have 3 kids. Again, the foundation within demonstrates commitment to what's being held up and where it's being held up. Their foundation is important to the livelihood of not only their house, but their family. It's the inside that is important in protecting the outside. Let's go back to our own foundation. It's important in our own development not to judge our foundation based on someone else's exterior display. Like, oh, I'm not good enough because they are achieving this great thing. No, it's your foundation, and what you are seeing is not their foundation, but what's being held up for display. And vice versa, if someone is not in a good living condition, we go, well, that person must not be a good person. We can't judge ours or anyone else's foundation by an exterior, nor deciding someone's foundation based on our own foundation, as if making character judgments like someone's wrong because I wouldn't do that. That's an impossible expectation. The most stable people I know seem to know themselves apart and outside of anyone's opinion of them. So again, as I say every week, it starts with you. It always starts and ends with you. Bring it back to you. There's this quote by author Charles B. Newcomb that says, "We cannot build until we have laid foundation stones. We add to our foundations every time we meet our difficulties well, however insignificant they may be." I want to read that last part again. We add to our foundations every time we meet our difficulties well, however insignificant they may be. We build upon our foundation every day. And maybe that means an extra 5 minutes of just closing your eyes in the morning and tuning into yourself. It may feel insignificant, but it's not. We build to our foundation that way. Maybe you need a new routine of sitting in silence with some soft piano music in the background at the end of the day to wind you down and help you fall asleep. It may seem insignificant, but it has to do with your foundation. And as we've learned, foundation is the thing that holds everything else up. It's not insignificant, even though it may seem so. We need to be brought back to our foundation, the most important things in our lives. And what's the best way to do that? I don't know what it is for you, but one of the things that has really helped my wife and I is adopting some mantras. And here are some as example. When we go to a place or find ourselves in a situation or going into a situation that we don't necessarily want to go into, but we're going in it together, we look at each other and we say these words. We say, one thing. Because we are each other's one thing. It doesn't matter what else happens. We have each other. And we have to take care of each other and look out for each other. And at the end of the day, we're each other's one thing that we have to worry about. Now we have a child, so he's our other one thing. Another one that has really brought a lot of freedom is this mantra, and maybe you've heard of it before. It goes like this: the only way out is through. The only way out is through. And so sometimes you just have to go through it, but you get your way out. You are on your way out. You're on towards relief and to growth and to healing. The only way out is through. What are some of your mantras? I want to hear them. Feel free to email me at phil@thestoryshop.tv. As you come to the beginning of a new year, maybe adopt a mantra. Find out what you need in order to go through 2020. You know, every year I adopt a mantra. 2019 was let it be. And not necessarily do I adopt these and find out that, oh, I do well at them, or, oh, they're extremely helpful. But sometimes I just tune into it and realize, oh, I'm not good at this. And this year was one of those. Like, I'm not good at letting things be. I deal a lot with perfectionism and wanting things to go my way. And so it's been just another dose of reality, 2019, that it doesn't just stop here to let things be the things I need to let be, but I've gotten perspective on that, how hard it is for me. And to one, allow myself grace there, but two, push myself to grow there. So what's it going to be for you? I really encourage you, as we near the end of December, take the next few weeks and don't just decide on it now. Let it permeate your thought process over the next few weeks and come to the decision of what is something that is going to bring me back to some of my foundations, things that are going to offer me my foundations that are going to offer me strength from those high winds, but also stability over time. With the shifting sands and shifting grounds and the changing of temperatures, what is going to offer me both strength and stable conditions? And I hope that you join me in 2020 with a new mindset of I'm starting, maybe not a new year with a bunch of goals that I may or may not achieve, but a new mindset, a new reminder of a foundation and even a way to get back to my foundation through a mantra or a saying that you are adopting or taking on and trying out for yourself for 2020. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like I've said, I haven't experienced that at all, but it's much better than perfect. Why? Because it's real. You want real. You don't want perfect. You want real. You want truth. So let's go for it. Thank you for joining me for a not so flashy episode on foundations. What we do at the end of each episode, as you may or may not know, is we take on an affirmation or a mantra, and we find a reflection of ourselves in the mirror and we say it to ourselves. It is an act of, one, faith, mostly because we can't see what's happening in our brain, but it's also an act of trusting that scientific findings of neuroplasticity, that we have the ability, no matter how old or young, to change the wiring in our brains, that we can affect the neural pathways by introducing positive, uplifting narratives and voices into our heads and into our lives. And we do this by finding a reflection of ourselves. So when you do that, say this mantra for this episode. No matter how unpredictable my life can be, I can always return to my foundations. If you want that, if you said that and you decided, yes, I want that. That is hard, but I want that. You've got to do the work to discover and decide, what are your foundations? What are your foundations? Are you loved? Are you known? Do you deserve grace? Yes, you do. You deserve grace. But to get to the point of, yeah, no, I do, is discovering your foundations. What gets you there? Do people appreciate your humor? Do you have a dog, a cat, something that sees you and is dependent on you and loves you and is grateful for you? And maybe you need to find it. Maybe you're good at what you do, but right now you're not helping train anyone else to become good at what you do. Maybe finding a foundation is reaching out with your skills and talents and your abilities and mentoring. Maybe you want to be a parent, but a child isn't coming right now. How else can you parent? This is something that my wife and I, who struggled with having children for years, decided is like, we were involved in our church's youth group. We were parenting in some ways, and in many ways where some of these parents were missing. What sort of thing can add to your foundation? Can you bring you back to home, to who you are and to who you want to be? The beautiful and also scary thing about that is no one can decide that for you. It's your life. It's your foundation. It's the thing from which you build all other things and make sure it's strong and eternal and somehow, some way that you believe that it can be eternal. Friends, it starts with you.